Well, the treaty motion, well, it says that no deal is better than a bad deal, talks of being ready to walk away if party policies are compromised. The government has set out its red lines already. What value does this motion bring? And is it an indication of some sort of scepticism over the treaty, even from your own party?
Well, it can't be an indication of scepticism from anybody other than myself, because I drafted the motion together with Albert Borrell and we presented it to the party executive. But you have to understand that these negotiations are a creature of 2001. That's when the mandate was completed by us, when Dominic Raab came to Gibraltar, and then the mandate of the European Union, and we started negotiations in October 2021. And of course, there hasn't been a meeting of the Gibraltar Socialist Labour Party and since 2019, before the general election. So there hadn't been a manifestation or a statement of policy from the party itself which linked the party and the government's position. So what you're seeing in the motion of the party is the position that I've been putting at the heart of government, together with GSLP members of the cabinet, who are completely in agreement with Liberal Party members of the cabinet, and which has become government policy. But we needed to link it and anchor it in the party also, and that's what the party executive agreed we should do. It also gave an opportunity to other speakers on the night to say a few words about the treaty, including Sir Joe Bassano, who made some very important points about the treaty and public finances in his own motion.
Well, turning now to the public finances motion, it was reiterated the party's golden rule to limit recurrent spending at or below the level of current revenue. Not so much the rule as a golden aim at present.
Well, it has been the golden rule of the GSLP since 1988 for those first 8 years in government. And then what we did in the first, I think, 10 or 9 years in government this time around, until COVID hit and we faced the difficulties that we faced, and we had to spend more than we had coming in, simply because we shut our economy and we stopped all the sources of revenue that there were in our economy, whilst we continued spending to ensure that every family working in Gibraltar had what they needed at the end of every week or month. So the party is restating its position and saying, look, in 1988 when we were elected into an economy that was in deficit, and we turned it around then. Of course, that was not easy. It was difficult. We must be committed to exactly the same thing now as a party and see that through in government. And that's what Joe's motion was about. He spoke very eloquently, of course, about all of the issues facing our economy. And Pepe Baldacchino, who presented the motion, who's the chairman of the party and was a minister in the 88 to 96 government, also gave examples of the sorts of things that they had to do, which were the right things to do in order to right the economy then, and we will do now to right our economy now too.
Well, also this week in Parliament, the salaries of some high-profile public sector jobs have been brought to light at the AGM. One of these motions also called for the government to ensure the protection of those on low incomes. What can you say to reassure the community that this is the correct way to be spending their money?
Well, it is the correct way to be spending their money, because, look, I've already seen how the Director General is bringing about savings in areas where we can do things more efficiently, which will already provide for more than 4, 5, 6 times the salary that he's being paid. And he's not the highest paid person in the GHA. There are consultants and others who are very highly paid in the GHA, who are much more highly remunerated than him. And there are others who do works which are not specialist medical works, who are remunerated very closely to him when you include payments of overtime, etc., etc. And they do jobs with much less responsibility. So I think the right balance has been struck for what we are getting. I mean, we can employ a Director General for a lot less and find that we are not getting the expertise that we need in order to provide what it is that we need to provide in our health services. But that really is a question that I'm answering you as Chief Minister, and I'm here to answer your questions as party leader. And that reflection of the public finance motion, I think, affects every section in government and in public life that we're responsible for, not just the GHA, although of course you're absolutely right to point it, because the GHA is the highest spending department of the government. If you want to call it a department, it's an agency. And we have to concentrate on spending there and on education and in every other area of public expenditure.
Well, before we go, you've been re-elected as party leader for the next election. It does feel like a long time ago we heard you say you wouldn't run for a fourth time. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. The AGM has reconfirmed what you have said since. Are you setting any more deadlines?
That's the, yesterday was the leadership election I didn't expect to have to fight. I expected to ask somebody else to fight that leadership election with my full support and for the party to be able to elect a new leader, so I would have done the 12 years I set out to do. But look, let's be very clear about one thing. I've spent a lot of your money and a lot of the money of all our compatriots doing what I think was the right thing during the COVID pandemic. I've embarked on historic negotiations with the European Union as leader of this party and leader of this community. These are seminal moments. The next election will be a moment where I think it is only responsible to give people the opportunity to sack the person who has done all those things or back the person who has done all those things.
So when will that next election be?
Well, it's due sometime next year.